All right, moving on to confidence and self-efficacy within sport. So again, we need to know some definitions. So sports confidence is the general disposition which is stable and global. It's far-reaching and inclusive on how someone feels about their abilities. So for example, I'm good at sport. Now, it can go either way, can sports confidence. You might have high sports confidence if you think you're good at all of these. That's why we've got these examples here. So if you've got good sports confidence, it's all inclusive. Okay, it's bringing all these. So you might be a really good tennis player, which would then raise your self-confidence and your sports confidence. Say you could transfer that to table tennis, maybe badminton, and generally you're confident in whatever sport you might play. We also need to know about self-efficacy. So a specific type of self-confidence, how sure someone is of their competence in a task-specific skill, and it's unstable. So, for example, see this in quite a lot in school. A hockey goalkeeper may be happy in their ability to stop a goal in school PE lessons, but less confident in a competitive league match, maybe against another school. So people with high self-efficacy tend to adopt approach behaviour. They'll approach any competitive situation and embrace it, whereas people with low self-efficacy tend to adopt an avoidance behaviour, so they'll avoid those competitive situations. I'm also just going to throw in there self-esteem that you might hear a little bit further down. This is the feeling of self-worth that determines how valuable and competent we feel, and that is more of an overarching feel. So down here, high level of sports confidence can have the following positive impacts. If you just have a look, an increased quality of performance and successes due to the increased participation. Increased participation because when you go, you enjoy the success and the enjoyment, which motivates you to go more to that club or that sport. And then again, increased self-esteem, what I just mentioned before, how someone feels about or judges their value due to experiencing success. So I'll just put that on for you. Maybe pause it and just have a double check that you're happy with everything on that page before we move on. Right, so moving on to Veely's model of sports confidence. This is the model that we need to get our head round. So Veely's model explains the level of confidence a performer feels as they approach a sports performance, the effects of their evaluation of the outcome on future performance. So it's again talks about how confident that we feel in a sports performance, but then also it's really important we understand it's about the evaluation of the outcome on how that impacts our future performance. Now, for this to be a success in your mind, you need to understand these terminologies, okay? And it might be worth just pausing and having a quick read of them. I'll also give you a little bit more information on each and give you a football example. So trait sports confidence, which is up here, this is an individual's innate natural belief of their sporting ability. A competitive orientation, how prepared an individual is to compete and the types of goal that they have set, so the performance of the product or the outcome. The objective sports situation is the nature of the task that is to be performed, so that might be a penalty kick in football. And the state sports confidence, an individual's unstable and changeable belief in their ability to be successful at a particular time. So this might be you stepping over the ball in football, and this is how confident you are feeling about that particular event. And the subjective perceptions of the outcome, this talks about the extent to which a performer believes their performance was successful. This talks about the evaluation afterwards. So when a performer approaches a sports performance, their level of state sports confidence will depend on, so level of state sports confidence, which is here, their pre-existing level of trait sports confidence, which is here, the nature of the task, the objective situation, which is this, so what the task is going to be, and their competitive orientation. This can also talk about how much they enjoy a competitive situation. Some people thrive in playing in very highly competitive matches, where some people really don't enjoy that at all. So just take a moment to have a read of that before we move on, because you need to know what they mean. Otherwise, the model on the next page doesn't make much sense. Right, so continue with Villi's model of sports confidence. I'm going to talk you through an example that you might come across in your exam. So first of all, we'll start with the objective sports situation. So we're going to take a penalty kick in football. So the first thing we need to know is our trait sports confidence. Now, everybody has an existing level of sports confidence. So high levels of sports confidence in football equals a high levels of trait sports confidence. So if you're very confident within football, this is going to be high. The competitive orientation, again, everyone has an existing level of competitiveness. Some people enjoy highly competitive situations, and obviously some people don't. We're going to say this person does. Now, these three things feed into our state sports confidence. Now, the confidence that can be shown in a specific situation in sport. And the specific situation in sport, again, we're talking about the penalty kick. Now, this is trait sports confidence plus competitive orientation will depend on the confidence we are in this specific situation. So, an experienced penalty taker has been successful in the same situation many times, which is going to equal high level of state sports confidence and likely to be successful. If the state sports confidence was low, for example, an inexperienced player, this would mean they'd be nervous and the penalty taker was probably going to be unsuccessful. So hopefully you understand that. This is how confident we are within sport. This is talking about how much we enjoy the competitive nature of that moment, which will give us our overall state sports confidence. Then we have our performance of the skill. Now it's either gone in or it's not gone in, so it's the response to that situation, so the penalty is scored or not. And then down here talks about how we feel afterwards, the perceptions of the outcome. So the emotion felt towards the behavioural response, the penalty kick. These perceived feelings affect future sports confidence. Okay, so with trait sports confidence, what we think is going to affect that. If it's successful, obviously it's going to be an increase. If we miss, obviously that's going to be reduced. And the positive perceived feelings may increase confidence and negative perceived feelings may decrease. So I've just mentioned that. So this is how we feel after it. It's gone in, that's high. If it's missed, this is going to be generally low. So an example, satisfaction if the penalty is scored, and disappointment if the penalty is not scored. Increase future confidence if outcome is successful, and possible decreased confidence if the outcome was poor. So just take a moment to have a read over that model. This here is a makeup of these three things. We do the skill and it's how we think. So it's positive, it'll increase. If it's negative, it'll decrease our trait sports confidence. And over here, we looks at, again, we didn't like that competitive environment that we were in. And it's going to, if the penalty was in, this is going to increase. You're going to enjoy being in that competitive situation. But if you miss, this could mean that you don't want to be put in that situation again, and you're not going to want to do it in the future. So again, just take a moment to run through that in your mind. Maybe use a different example than football. Okay, moving on to Bandura's model of self-efficacy. Remember, self-efficacy is the task-specific confidence, and we talked about in the previous example of a penalty taker. So the performance of accomplishment, the previous successes a performer has had. So if they've done well in training, they're going to try and think about that, and that will increase their self-efficacy. Vicarious experiences, watching others of equal ability succeeding at the task. So if the performer is shown an accurate demonstration, self-efficacy increases. So again, looking at maybe a perfect model will help you increase that self-efficacy. Then we're looking at verbal persuasion. So being convinced that they have the ability to be successful at the task. So positive talk from a coach increases self-efficacy. Experienced performers can do it themselves to persuade them that they're going to do well. And the last one is emotional arousal, the performer's perception of their psychological and physiological state. So if a performer can view their heightened arousal as readiness for performance, efficacy will increase. So it's all right being nervous and accepting that that is a good thing, that you're going to increase that self-efficacy, learning to deal with that heightened arousal. Right, so that is Bandura's model of self-efficacy and confidence done. So I will set you a few little tasks later on, but hopefully you've got that and it's helped you.